Hello, and welcome to Chopra Radio, where we invite you to join the conversation to balance, heal, and transform your life. I am your host, Dallas Brown, and we are so excited to have a conversation today on transforming your relationship with money and with life with very special guest, Lynne Twist. For more than 40 years, Lynne has been a recognized global visionary committed to alleviating poverty and hunger and supporting social justice and environmental sustainability. From working with Mother Teresa in Calcutta to the refugee camps in Ethiopia and threatened rainforests of the Amazon, Lynne's work has taken her to more than 50 countries. The stories and insights gained from her experiences inspired Lynne to write her best-selling, award-winning book, The Soul of Money, Transforming Your Relationship with Money and Life. We are so excited to have Lynne joining Deepak Chopra at our 4-day Spiritual Solutions Workshop, December 11th through 14th at the beautiful Omni La Costa Resort and Spa. This workshop is dedicated to helping guests improve their lives in the area of health, relationships, personal fulfillment, and success. Lynne, welcome. We are so happy to have you here with us.
Thank you, Dallas. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, we are just so excited to be having this conversation. You know, money and our relationship with money seems to be every day a more important and sensitive conversation, and this is really a conversation that you've devoted much of your life's work to. Tell me about the soul of money. What do you mean by that?
Well, first of all, it makes it sound, that phrase, and which is the title of my book and the title of my institute. It makes it sound like money has a soul, but it's a little bit of a title that is designed to have you think, to have you inquire, to have you do what you just did, to be curious, because money is so embedded in the kind of unconscious, unexamined set of assumptions that we live with. And our relationship with money is so confusing and upsetting for most people that the soul of money really means to recognize that money doesn't have a soul, but we do. And we can use money in a way that is an expression of our soul, where we give a soul to money, where we guide money, where we earn money, where we spend money, where we invest money, where we contribute money in a way that's consistent with our highest values, our deepest soul-level commitments. And so I've been lucky enough, fortunate enough, to be both a fundraiser and a philanthropist as a global activist for my entire life, and had the great privilege of working with people in resource-poor conditions and in enormous resource-rich conditions, and many people in between. And I've learned a great deal about money, both through my work ending world hunger, working on consciousness issues, working now in the Amazon rainforest with people who don't even know money exists and can't understand why we're so completely nuts about it, and with people like you and me who are trapped, I think, and imprisoned often by a culture that exalts money, makes it more important even than human life, the natural world, or our spiritual souls. And so I've been called and inspired to take what I've learned and what I've discovered in my work as a philanthropist and a fundraiser, working with people all over the world in every possible economic condition, to really look at what is it that has us so nutty around money, so much suffering around money, whether we have very little of it, whether we're trying desperately to make ends meet, where we're flooded with money. Some of the most troubled people in their relationship with money are the uber-rich, the ultra-wealthy, and you wouldn't think so, because it seems like, gosh, if we just had more money, everything would be fine. But actually, that's just not the case. So this has been an area, a very rich area of discovery and research and exploration and transformation for me, and I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to share about it.
Yes, thank you. And I think you touch on so many very important, very rich topics within themselves, but you're absolutely right. I mean, money seems to be such a point of mystery for many people that can't seem to to find its rightful place and to use it in a way that supports and enables goals and the fulfillment of dreams and the betterment of society. Why do you think that is?
Well, I have discovered that that we live in a culture that is has been hijacked by this addiction and kind of obsession with money. This consumer, monetized, material culture has us by the throat, you might say. And in swimming in that culture is painful, really painful. Because we define success, for example, as just how much money you have, rather than how deeply you're fulfilling your ultimate mission in life, or how happy you are is sometimes the only way people think they can measure that is how much money they have. So we're actually what I would call lying in our relationship with money, because the culture encourages that. In fact, almost foments a culture of lying. And when I say lying, it's a strong word, but I use that to sort of insult some of the things we're trapped in, so that we can look at them, so we can, disaggregate from them and take a look more deeply at our aborted, dysfunctional, very painful relationship with money. That's really true for pretty much everybody. Now, there's rare people who have a healthy relationship with money. It is possible. It has happened. There are some people, but they're kind of the mutants in our society, rather than what's normal is to have a scary, upsetting, painful, anxious, and difficult relationship with money, where you're in a kind of suffering with it pretty much all the time. And I say the source of that is these lies, and I'll say a little bit about what I mean by that, or what I call a condition of unexamined, unconscious assumptions that are just not true. So, for example, we've forgotten as a culture that we invented money. It's our creation. There was no such thing. Pennies do not fall from heaven. Money does not grow on trees. It is not part of the natural world. We invented it. We created it about 4,500 years ago for the explicit purpose of empowering and facilitating the sharing of goods and resources, so everyone could have what they needed. And that was the original purpose of money, to make things easier for people, for the cobbler to have corn, for the corn farmer to have a pig, for the pig farmer to have access to everything he or she needed. We invented money to make all that easier, so we could not just barter corn for a pig and shoes for corn, but to actually make it simpler, so that we could make sure everybody had what they needed. And so instead of trading cobbler trading shoes for a pig, when he didn't really, when the pig farmer didn't really need shoes, what he really needed is corn, so the cobbler had to go to the corn farmer and fix his shoes so he could get corn to give to the pig farmer so he'd get a pig, which got very, very complicated. We invented money, really that's a sort of simple example, to make all that much smoother and easier, and to make sure that everybody got what they needed. And that was its original purpose 4,500 years ago, approximately. Money historians sometimes say it's 3,500 years ago, but that was its original purpose. And now money, rather than fulfilling that purpose, is used to marginalize millions of people, to accumulate hoards for some and withdraw it from others, to exploit some people for the benefit of others. It's actually lost its way in terms of its original purpose. And banking and interest and derivatives and the stock market and all of the things that we've invented have actually, in some cases, been invented in a way that has taken money in a direction that it just isn't fulfilling its original purpose. Another lie we tell about money, and it's a strong word to say that, but it's part of the culture, not part of what we're personally doing, but what we buy into, is that we give money its power and its meaning. It has no power or meaning other than what we give it. And we have assigned it, as a culture, immense power. And that power comes from us. We've assigned it that power. when you think about it, money's just a piece of paper or a blip on a computer screen or a set of agreements. But we've assigned it so much power rather than using it to produce what we want in the world. We do what we think we have to do to produce money. So it's completely backwards. Rather than money being of service to produce the goods and services we need and want for everyone in the world, we do things to produce money, which is a reverse of its original purpose. And we've made it more important than human life. We will kill for money. We will cut off a relationship with someone who doesn't pay us back a loan. We will not speak to a brother or a sister or a father over an inheritance issue or a divorce for decades, which says we've made money more important than those relationships. And we literally will make a dying rather than a living, do something that we hate or that kills our spirit in order to earn money, or we'll make a killing rather than a living, which I use to refer to people who are doing something they know is destroying the lives of someone else, marginalizing someone, enslaving someone, or even destroying the natural resources on which the world depends for money. And our culture makes that, unfortunately, still legitimate. If you earn enough money, if you have to pollute a river to do it, somehow you're rewarded for that anyway. Or if we will destroy a rainforest for money. And the third thing I would say is that, there are very few people actually making a living. That is, doing something that nurtures them, nurtures the world, and they get compensated for. So we've kind of hijacked our own lives for money as a culture. But it's the culture that's done it, not us. So we bought into it. Yes, we're swimming in that. But one of the things I like to tell people that gives them a little bit of peace and freedom is the lies, the distortion, the kind of dysfunction is in the culture of money, not in you. And it's not your personal rainstorm. It's raining on everybody else too. So we take that culture and we personalize it and make ourselves wrong. And one of the things that Buddha taught thousands of years ago was the source of all suffering is a lie. And I say the source of the suffering in our relationship with money is the lies that we tell around money, making it more important than human life. None of us really believe that, yet we behave, all of us in some way, as if that is more important than human life, more important than the natural world. So this is a kind of an insight that I think is important and can give people a little bit of peace and freedom. But the key lie we tell about money, and I'll get to that in a moment, is the lie, what I call the lie of scarcity, which I can unpack for you if you'd like.
Yeah, I think, that's absolutely, startling to think about money in its historical context and to think that a system that was meant to simplify our lives has become, one of the most, probably the most complex challenge of our times. And, we're truly at this moment that feels very important in our human evolution. And, now today where we are 6 years after, our big economic meltdown, it seems, some people talk about things are shifting and yet maybe not fast enough. What do you think about that?
In 1987, we as a human family went over what is called the One Earth line. That is, we went into global overshoot. Now, what that means is that's the year that scientists say we began to actually take more resources from the earth than she can possibly regenerate. So as a human family, we went into ecological overshoot, meaning we started to live off an ecological credit card we can never, ever pay back. So taking more resources from the earth than she can regenerate. That had never happened before 1987. We were headed that way, but we crossed that line in 1987. Now in 2014, while we're doing this call, we're at 46% more resources than the Earth can regenerate. And ecological economists in 1987 predicted within 20 years a huge economic crisis, because the economy is rooted in the ecology. The economy is a subset of the ecology. Everything comes from the Earth. The phone that I'm on, the microphone system, the technology that is making it possible for people to hear my voice, the pen anybody might be writing with, the paper, everything comes from the Earth, the desk, the chair. So when we take more resources than the Earth can regenerate, that has sent us into ecological debt, and we're going deeper and deeper into ecological debt. And that is now, it took about 20 years, totally reflected in economic debt. So I would say, and many ecological economists would say, the actual source of our economic debt and downturn and crisis, which we really haven't recovered from, the only way we've recovered from it is to borrow more financially, which isn't getting at the root cause of the fact that as a human family, we're not living within our ecological means. And until we do, we will continue to go into economic debt. They're very much related. So I'm glad you brought that up. And that is a huge part of what's going on right now that is unacknowledged, unaddressed, and unconscious. And we've invented, of course, all kinds of things that are that exacerbated that with the mortgage crisis, et cetera. But it's all, if you think about the mortgage crisis, derivatives, Wall Street greed, all of the things that people point to, lack of regulation, it's all rooted in this being in overshoot, being in a kind of ecological debt with the natural world of which we are a part. So first of all, I wanted to say that. And then secondly, to get into this distinction of scarcity. Scarcity, I write about this in my book and really have looked deeply into this. There is a mindset, an unconscious, unexamined mindset that we now live in, and we've been living in it for probably, hundreds of years. It was here before you and I were born, and it'll be there after we're gone. But it's an unconscious, unexamined cultural condition that's before thinking or before discernment. It's almost like a lens we're looking through and we don't even know we're looking through it, that has us think that there is not enough. There's not enough time. There's not enough money. There's not enough sex. There's not enough love. There's not enough patience. There's not enough volunteers. There's not enough market share. There's not enough hours in the day. We're not tall enough or thin enough or young enough or anything enough. This there's not enough mentality, which is the first toxic myth, I call it, in the great lie of scarcity. Now, let me just make a distinction here before I go on. I've worked on hunger and poverty. I work in the environmental movement now. I know there are places and people who don't have enough water, who don't have enough to eat. I've held dying babies in my arms in Bangladesh and in Ethiopia. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about an unconscious, unexamined lens of assumptions that has you immediately wake up in the morning and the first thought most people have is, I didn't get enough sleep. The second thought is, I don't have enough time to do what I need to do to get myself to work or wherever I need to go or the kids to school. Then you go in the refrigerator, I don't have enough time to go to the grocery store. I don't have enough of this. I don't have enough of that. I don't have enough to wear. I don't have to, et cetera, et cetera. And we go through the whole day. Most conversations, most conference calls, most luncheon meetings, most events, most gatherings are about what we don't have enough of. It's an unconscious, unexamined lens through which we look at the world, particularly in the more affluent places in the world. And it has within it this, what I call the three toxic myths. There's not enough. More is better. More of anything and everything is better. And that's just the way that it is. And those three, what I call toxic myths, there's not enough, more is better, that's just the way that it is, kind of govern, this kind of mythology governs our behavior and a culture of consumerism and commercialism and monetization of literally everything that has us living inconsistent with who we know ourselves to be, has us out of touch with our own nature, our own human nature, out of touch with the natural world of which we are a part, out of touch with all of our relations, our kin, the plants, the animals, the other human beings with which we share the great resources and bounty of the natural world, and has us accumulating way more than we need. There's probably not a person listening to this who shouldn't be, unloading some of the stuff in their closet or their garage or the trunk of their car, etc. We're just in a constant kind of mania of accumulating more than we need, and it comes from, I say, this unconscious, unexamined lens or condition or pathology that there's not enough to go around. Someone somewhere is always going to be left out. That's a belief that has you feel almost noble to accumulate more than you need to make sure that you're not among those who might get left out if you really unconsciously think there's not enough to go around and someone's always going to be left out. So there's not enough is the first toxic myth. Then more is better is just a mania. More of anything, everything is we kind of actually chase more of absolutely everything, and it's very, very much a kind of addiction in the culture in which we live. One of the kind of symbols of it for me is this thing in the United States, which is a huge industry growing faster than the automobile industry, and it's called storage. And when you think about storage and what it is, it's that we're building houses for our stuff, really. That we have more stuff than we can put in the houses that we already have, and we've got millions of homeless people in this country, but we're not building houses for them. We're building houses and kind of apartments for our stuff that we can't fit in the houses and apartments we live in because we have way more than we need. It's an example of a culture that's lost its way. And then this third toxic myth, after more, there's not enough, more is better, is that's just the way that it is. And that just the way that it is sounds not so harmful, except that when you think about it, it is the source of resignation, it's the source of giving up, it's the source of discouragement. You're just never, ever going to get ahead. You just need to keep scrambling to have more and more and more and more money, more this, more that. And you have this discouraging resignation that's just the way that it is. I'm just never, ever going to, get ahead of this. And that is the psychological, I would say, and ontological, more accurately, kind of condition that most people live in that causes tremendous suffering in marriages, in families, in companies, in NGOs, in churches. It's just enormous, the suffering we have around money, the hurt, the wounds, the baggage, the upsets, the anxieties that most people have around money. And I say that if we could reveal what I call the lie of scarcity, the lies we tell about money, and actually look at it in a whole other way, which I can talk to in a moment, we can have peace and freedom with this stuff and actually begin to have a relationship with it that's healthy, that's nourishing, and that is of use to the world.
Wow. I mean, I think everybody listening to this call, myself included, can think of ways where this myth and this deeply held belief shows up and prevents us from achieving our personal goals, from achieving the type of impact we want to make in the world. And it's so pervasive, as you speak to. It's just absolutely everywhere. So I think what I want to know, and what I'm sure everybody listening wants to know, is how do we begin to shift that, this message that is such a part of the fabric of our society and is so everywhere? How can we change that?
Well, first of all, that the messaging of advertising and marketing, and if anybody is in that profession, you're doing a fabulous job. We're totally sold. is a constant rain of, you need this, you must have this to be okay. You're not okay unless you have more hair, or you're thinner, or you're taller, or you're... So those messages will continue to rain on us. It's a tsunami of messaging. Tell us we need more, telling us we're not enough in some subtle way until we acquire more of something. So that's not going to go away. The opportunity, I think, to unlock from it and unhitch from the mania, from the intensity of the consumer culture, is to really recognize what I call the radical, surprising truth. And this came to me in a wonderful way. I was a student of the great Buckminster Fuller, who lived in the 20th century and was a humanist, a futurist, and often called the grandfather of the future. He was an engineer, and he and an architect. And he, in a speech I heard him make, and then in consequent conversations with him, said something that just was a showstopper and changed my whole world. And he said this. He said, humanity, and he said this long ago, many decades ago, humanity has crossed a threshold. And he didn't say when it had been crossed, but at some point, within the last 100 years, humanity has crossed a threshold. We are doing so much more with so much less that we now live in a world where there's enough for everyone, everywhere, to have a healthy and productive life. We are doing so much more with so much less, and we've crossed a very important threshold, a line, where we now clearly have enough for everyone, everywhere, to have a healthy and productive life. Now, when Buckminster Fuller said that, he said, we have sufficient resources. He said, we have enough. And when I heard that word, I was stunned, and I had a kind of a Kundalini experience, and I didn't quite understand what he was saying, and you may not understand it quite yet, but something happened to me. And then he went on to say, this is the direction of our science, our innovation. We are doing more and more with less and less. That is the genius of human evolution, and that is the direction we're headed. He said this in 1976, by the way, before the computer, before microprocessing, before cell phones, before any of these tiny devices that could practically put a man on the moon that we hold in our hands now. And he wasn't just talking about technology, he was also talking about permaculture and all the ways that we are now learning how to do so much more with so much less. And he said that changes the game from a human family where it's a you or me world. Either you make it at my expense or I make it at your expense, to, and that's a world of scarcity where someone has to suffer. Two, and he crossed this line, he held out his arm and put us on the other side of this line that he was drawing. We now live in a world where you and I can make it at no one's expense. That's a you and me world rather than a you or me world where you make it at my expense or I make it at your expense. That's a you or me world, to a you and me world. You and I can both make it at no one's expense. Then he said, that's a world of absolute sufficiency, and that's the actual truth about the world in which we live now. It probably always has been. Then he said, it'll take 50 years, he said this in 1976, it'll take 50 years for humanity to come to terms with that new paradigm, because all of the institutions of humankind have been rooted, created, and designed from an understanding of the world that's a you or me world. Education is rooted in a you or me paradigm of the world. Economics is clearly rooted in a you or me understanding of the world. Governance is rooted in a you or me understanding of the world. And even, he said, religion has been rooted in a you or me understanding of the world. And he said it'll take about 50 years for us to re-examine, rethink our institutions, and some of them will need to completely dissolve and fall apart for us to recreate them from a new understanding of the world, which is a sufficient, that we live in sufficiency, a you and me understanding of the world. And that was in 1976, so we're actually, when you think about it, that's kind of what's starting to happen.
We're certainly getting closer to that 50-year mark.
And we are beginning to see that it's all of us or none of us with climate change, with open source, with we're starting to really see that it's a you and me world, that you can't leave out millions and millions and millions of people. There will be consequences for that. We are starting to actually rethink the economic model, the business model, the governance model, the education model. You can see that we are really looking deeply now, and there's a lot more work to do, even our relationship with money. So this distinction of sufficiency, and I'm going to name it the sufficiency very carefully, not abundance, because Buckminster Fuller really educated us all that sufficiency is a state of being, a way of seeing the world, that there's enough, that I'm enough, that you're enough. And out of that enoughness, we can share and contribute. Out of that enoughness, that sufficiency, we can grow into abundance, but not out of scarcity. So when you're chasing scarcity, when you think you have to have more and you're desperate for more, you're coming from scarcity. When you have enough, you realize that what you appreciate appreciates. And this distinction of sufficiency is the source of true abundance. And I'll just give you a principle here, which is kind of the central principle of what I'm trying to say here, and that is, and listen carefully to this, if you let go of trying to get more of what you don't really need, which is what we're all scrambling to get more of because we're brainwashed to want more of what we don't really need, it frees up oceans of energy that's caught up in that chase to get more and more and more. It frees up oceans of energy to turn and pay attention to what we already have. When we pay attention to what we already have, when we make a difference with it, when we nourish it, it expands. And that's the true source of abundance. The portal to abundance is actually enough rather than more. The portal of more only leads you to lack, and then you have to have more again. But the portal or doorway or experience of sufficiency is what allows us to expand into true abundance, wealth, generosity, contribution, and prosperity.
That's such an interesting shift in understanding how to get to that place that we all want to be, where we feel like we have enough of all of the things that we truly need and that we are content, maybe not wealthy by somebody else's standards, but in that true place of contentment and enoughness.
Exactly.
And it's a very beautiful philosophy, and I think many people listening at home may think, yes, that sounds wonderful, but how in the world do I get to that place? How do I shift that? What can I do today in my life with my family and my job and my debt and the bills I have to pay? How can I ever break free of this cycle and this system that I'm so deeply entrenched in?
Well, that's a beautiful question and a real huge conundrum for everyone on planet Earth today, including myself. But I say that the thing to recognize and where to start is to realize you're already there. And that's where I think it's almost inconceivable to think that thought for some people. But, because we all have bills and we all have stuff we want that we don't have, and we all have needs, and we all have a gap that seems almost immeasurable between where we are and what we think we ought to have, or what we should have, or what we think we must have. But if you can let that go just for a moment, everybody who's listening, and now turn all of that attention on what you think you've got to have, or what you think you must accomplish, or what you think you must do, or you must be, or you must have, or you must acquire. Take all of that energy and release yourself for the moment and turn and pay attention to what you already have. And this would be probably a good place to do a guided meditation if that would work for you, Dallas. Could we do that here?
Absolutely, Lynn.
So I suggest that if you're able and feel comfortable doing so, let your eyes close and stop writing if you're writing, and get in a comfortable position, unless you're driving. And sort of just relax into your body and let go of all that anxiety and all the frenzy and franticness that's part of today's nonstop world. And pay attention, as you probably often do when you close your eyes and meditate or when you rest, to the incredible steadiness and count honorable trustworthiness of your breath. And as you follow it, as your body so beautifully and so lovingly breathes in and out, recognize that there are 7.2 billion of us breathing in and out right now together. And we're connected to each and every one of those lives, those people, those beings, those biological expressions, and exchanging oxygen and molecules and cells with every breath in and out. We are definitely related. But not only to those wonderful human beings, but to all the animals, the elephants, the eagles, the flamingos, the fish, the insects, the snakes, the kittens, the mountain lions. They're breathing too, and we're exchanging with them as well. We breathe with all the animals as well, the two-leggeds, the four-leggeds, the wingeds. And as you breathe with them, recognize that we also breathe in and out with all the plants. Every plant breathes too. Every tree, every leaf, every weed, every flower, every stalk of corn, every potato plant, every carrot. They breathe too with us. And then the earth herself, she breathes too. And we are all intimately interconnected to that enormous bounty. As you breathe in and out with all of your kin and my kin, think about the absolute great fullness of your life. How full your life is with friends, with people who would do anything for you, with a wonderful place to live that you actually love. No matter where it is right now, you've made it your own. Maybe it's smaller than you wanted or larger than you wanted or not in the neighborhood you wanted, but it's yours. Think of your belongings around you, a chair you love to sit in, your favorite pillow, your things. Think of your things. I love my little Prius. I love my little car. It makes me happy to get in it and feel good about it. Think about the family you get to be part of, even if it's a struggle, the bounty of family, the work you get to do, the fact that you're on this kind of a call, that you're connected with an extraordinary genius and a spiritual teacher like Deepak Chopra, that you have the wherewithal, the education, the space to be thinking about your own consciousness, to be examining your life, the beauty of that. Think about all the people who you love and all the people who love you, the friends you have, what you have at your fingertips now in terms of technology, the opportunities that come towards you constantly, and the beauty and bounty and miracle of your life, even the things that have been tragic and difficult, how they've taught you and opened your heart and given you teachings that you maybe never could have gotten any other way. And just revel and be flooded by the absolute miracle of your life. And as you breathe in and out, as if someone is sitting right across from you, gently and silently share about the people you love, their names, how they do anything for you, how kind they are, how generous they've been with you, and the people that you have the opportunity to work with and serve and learn alongside of the teachers you've had. Share those names. Talk about the bounty of your physical home and how you really have everything you need. You really have it. And you're constantly met by the universe with exactly what you need. Sometimes not what you want, but exactly what you need. And as you contemplate that, know that what you appreciate appreciates. When you revel in the great fullness of your life, that's the source of world gratefulness, the great fullness of your life. It overflows into abundance and thanksgiving. When you're in touch with the great fullness of your life, all you want to do is give and share and contribute and make things better for everyone else. And if you can stand in that great fullness, then you're whole and complete when you address the challenges you have, rather than you're needy and lacking. When you address the bills you need to pay or the business you need to expand. But if you expand it from the wholeness and completeness and the fullness of who you are, the life that you have, the genius, the inspiration, the vision, and the gifts that you've been given, and the blessing and bounty of your own life, then you expand and share from appreciation and gratefulness rather than lack and scarcity. And you become able and completely sufficient to whatever task is in front of you. So take another breath with all that lives and breathes, which is everything, everywhere. It is there in service and in enormous bounty and serving and nourishing you every day, every minute, every moment, every night, every month, every week, every year. And in deep gratitude, open your eyes.
Thank you. And
that's where to start. That's where to start, from where you are, which is in the great fullness of life itself, in gratefulness. I'm going to read a quote, a Sufi poem. That's the way I usually complete that meditation, and it is this. I asked for strength, so God gave me difficulties, which made me strong. I asked for wisdom, and God gave me problems, which I learned to solve. I asked for prosperity, and God gave me a brain and brawn to go to work. I asked for courage, and God gave me dangers to overcome. I asked for love, and God gave me people to help. I asked for favors, but God gave me opportunities. I received nothing I wanted. I received everything I needed. That's by Hazrat Inayat Khan.
So beautiful. So beautiful. And I think that meditation that you just shared with us is also so practical, because it's something that we can truly do in every moment, driving our cars and washing the dishes, to put our attention on the goodness of our lives.
Mm-hmm. And people want to be around people who are in touch with that. You know, I study with Brother David Steindl-Rast, who's a Benedictine monk. He has no possessions. He's the icon of gratefulness. He has a website called gratefulness.org, and you can just go there and revel in the beauty of gratefulness and realize that the word wealth comes from well-being, and all of us have an infinite well of being on which to draw every day. It's infinite, the well of being. That's the source of well-being, which is the source of wealth. And that's what people want. They want well-being. And it's already there. We just need to turn our attention to it. When we turn our attention to it, when we let go of trying to get more of what we don't really need and turn our attention to what we already have and make a difference with it, nourish it, give it our attention and intention and share it, then it expands. That's actually the true source of abundance, sharing.
And that's a spiritual practice.
Yes,
right?
It is. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Lynne, I feel like there's so much more that we could talk about, but I know that our guests will have the opportunity to experience you at Spiritual Solutions this December, which we are so deeply grateful for and so looking forward to having you share the stage with Deepak and continue this amazingly important conversation. So thank you very much for being with us today and sharing your wisdom, and we're deeply grateful and looking forward to more.
Well, thank you very much, and I really appreciate the opportunity to share these thoughts, which really come through me, not from me, and I'm grateful for that, and also really delighted and honored to be sharing the stage with Deepak. He's a great hero for me, and he embodies everything that I've been talking about.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, if those listening are interested in learning more about the Spiritual Solutions Workshop, you can log on to chopra.com/spiritual solutions. You can also give us a call at 760-494-1639. Lynne, thank you very much, and we can't wait to see you in December.
All right. Thank you, Dallas. Have a wonderful day.
You as well. Take care.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.